Hi, Matt Toms with another one chart lesson here. Today we're going to be learning a little bit about how to strum good reggae rhythms. The first thing is that you can either strum with your fingers like I usually do, and you'll notice in my other videos I'm almost always playing with my fingers, but you can just as easily use a pick. Now there are some advantages to using fingers for your strumming, which we'll get to later when we sort of engage our thumb as well as our fingers for different parts of our strums. It's really, really helpful to be able to use your fingers instead. Okay, so in reggae rhythms, most of the time you're going to want to use bar chords. Now you don't have to use bar chords, but the reason why it's more effective to use bar chords is because bar chords, with a bar chord, you're touching every single string. And when you're touching every single string with some part of your hand, then you can actually mute all those strings instantly simply by releasing the pressure but not releasing your fingers. So if you're, for example, here's an A bar chord. So it looks like an E-shaped chord, looks like an open E that you've moved up to the 5th fret. Now, in another video, I'm explaining a lot about bar chords and different shapes, and they're actually not as complicated as a lot of people think they are. But I'm going to assume that you know a little bit about bar chords, or just the basics of bar chords here, because we're going to use 3 chords to do a reggae rhythm pattern. So one of the killer things to do with a reggae rhythm is to squeeze your bar chord as you strum it, and then as soon as you strum it, you release that pressure and you mute the chord. So you get that really nice short chord like that. If you do it with your open A chord, so there's an open A major chord, right? You can do it as well with open chords, but you've got to do a lot of your muting with your right hand. And probably the easiest way to do that is to strum and then use this part of your hand to touch the strings, kind of as the end part of your strum. So you'll see I'm sort of strumming those strings, and then my hand comes back and mutes the strings straight away. One smooth movement out and back. Strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute. On a D chord, strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute. So you want that mute to be as smooth as possible. You don't want it to feel like an extra movement or an extra strum in itself. You want it to feel like an extension of your strum. Strum, mute, strum, mute. Okay? For the rest of this video, we're going to be using bar chords because it's by far the better way to get that choppy, short, muffled, muted chord sound. Okay? But most of the time with our reggae strumming is it's also swung as opposed to straight. Now, a straight count or a straight 8 count, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, that's straight. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A swung rhythm sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's almost like we push the and back against the following beat. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so if you can do that with your right hand, mute all the strings for a minute. Just lay your fingers across the strings and see if you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Once you can do that, that's a swung rhythm. Now, the very most basic reggae rhythm is just a down strum on the second beat of the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though we're not playing the ands, I want you to be thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, because that's too stilted. It's too straight to have that really nice cruisy swung reggae feel. So I want you to be going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, you can do it with a pick just as easily as your fingers. Next stage along, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do an up strum on the 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 I'm squeezing the 2 and the 2 and the 4 and the 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and squeezing both those chords on. So it takes a little bit of getting used to be squeezing all the time. And your hand will get fatigued when you start learning how to do this. Your hand will get fatigued for a little while, but it will quickly become strong enough to do it without even thinking about it. So that's the next stage along. We start with 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And now here is where it comes in handy to be using your fingers, because what we can do is we can use our thumb to play the bass note or the root note of the chord, which in this case of the A major chord is this E string 5th fret. What we can do is we can play the root note on the first beat of the bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, right? So 1 and 2. So that will take a little bit of getting used to. Just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get that going, you might want to try dropping the third beat thumb note, because it kind of gets a little bit too rhythmic, or a little bit too predictable, a little bit too consistent. You want to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you can do that comfortably, then you can start adding in those up strums on the 2 and the 4 and that we just did earlier. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. What you're noticing there is that 4 and, I'm leaving the pressure on, I'm leaving that chord to ring on, and when I start the new bar with my thumb note on the 1, it's kind of joining up. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So do that for a while. Once you can do it really comfortably without even thinking too much about it, then you're ready to kind of move on to the next little layer of complexity, which is adding all those 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. There's 8 beats that we're counting out there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? All of those beats can actually be articulated with strums, but you don't want to articulate them as chords. You want to make them what we call muted strums, which in a tab would probably come up as a line of X's. That's a line of X's. It means strum the strings, but don't let them have any note or pitch to them. Okay? So as we're moving our hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. If you start with that, you can see how those chords fit in. 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 can keep that rhythm going and you can fill it out simply by moving your hand across those strings on every one of those eighth note beats, swung eighth note beats, and then just press on the chords when you want to hear them. Now that sounds complicated, so what you want to do when something sounds complicated, you want to trust your ears a little bit, and you can hear what this sounds like. Start very softly with your little muted strums. Start very softly. Until you get control of it. You can do a 1, 2, and then a 4 and you can do a 1, 2 and then a 4. Mix it up. See what sounds good. That gives you the basics to kind of start building your reggae strum. Again, use your ears. Play what feels good. If it sounds good, it is good. You are the best judge of how that strumming is sounding and how it's feeling. A lot of it is how it's feeling rather than how it's sounding, actually, because if it feels good, it will sound good. So once you get comfortable with that style of reggae strumming and you're doing it as simply or as complex as you like to, then you can start adding new chords. Now, always when you're doing your thumb on the root note of the chord, be careful. If you're changing, say, for example, in this Bob Marley song, we're going to go from A, we're going to do 2 bars of A, then we're going to move to D. And then we're going to go for the 4th bar of the pattern, we're going to go up to E. Now I'll take you through those chords again. We've got A, here is an E shape on the 5th fret. D is an A-shaped chord on the 5th fret also, but now our root note is on the A string 5th fret. So that's the one you want to articulate with your thumb. And the E chord is the same shape moved up 2 frets, to the root note being on the 7th fret, A string. So even that, without doing a very complex rhythm, you can practice. And move through those chords, always following your root note for each chord with your thumb. And if you do 2 bars of A followed by a bar of D and a bar of E, and you repeat that 4-bar cycle over and over and over, you've got the Bob Marley song Stir It Up.